Hi. I can never tell when I'm going live. I was feeling really frustrated this morning. I felt frustrated. I felt stupid. I was doing a new workout and I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know the order of things. I didn't know when I'm supposed to rest and when I'm supposed to go. It's like it was a complete tubagoo mess. And I started feeling stupid, frustrated, getting more and more angry, like really getting mad at myself. And what I realized in that moment is I was completely taking on, well, I think we all tend to do this at one point or another, sort of taking on my sense of worth and value based on whatever externally is going on. And that Bible passage, was it Jeremiah 29:11, I think, where it says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you an expected end. It's like God is always giving us exactly what we need in the moment and letting us know who we are. Like we are the child of God. We are made in his image and likeness. So God knows who we are. Do we know who we are based in what God is knowing? It's there's this wonderful poem by what's her name? Elizabeth Adams. And it starts off with Father, we thy loving children. And it's a hymn that a lot of people know. Father, we thy loving children, lift our hearts in joy today, knowing well that thou wilt keep us ever in thy blessed way. And then it goes on. And then the second verse is about come we daily then, dear Father, open hearts and willing hands, eager ears, expectant, joyful, ready for thy right commands. And that part, eager ears, expectant, joyful, ready for thy right commands. It's like God is leading us every moment of the day. But if we're stuck in that mortal sense of self and getting frustrated and angry and feeling stupid, and we're reiterating that to ourselves, we're not in that place of eager ears, expectant, joyful. Like, how do I need to shift to be in that place? If I'm in the middle of a workout and I'm messing up all over the place because it's new and I don't know what I'm doing and blah, 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 how do I need to be in that mindset of eager ears, expectant, joyful, ready for thy right commands? I need to get out of self, number one. I need to stop letting the circumstances feel personal to me, like I'm guilty, like no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. Do you know that expression? I love that expression because that's sort of the difference between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2. Genesis 2 is fault, blame, guilt, shame. Like that's the whole thing. Fault, it's your fault. You're to blame. You should feel guilty. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed of yourself. How many times have we heard that in our lives? No fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame. None of that. Genesis 1 says, God made everything good. And behold, God made everything. Behold, it was very good. And he made us in his image and likeness. That's good. There's no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame in any of that. So if I'm identifying with the Genesis 1 version of me, the only reality, if I'm identifying with that, then there's no fault, there's no blame, there's no guilt, there's no shame. So when those feelings come up for me in the process of looking out and seeing, oh, I stink because I didn't do that right. It's like, it's just feedback. It doesn't tell you who you are. It's just feedback. If you make a mistake, okay, you make a mistake. It doesn't mean you're at fault and you're to blame and you're guilty and you should feel ashamed of yourself. No, I am who God created me to be. So I can hold that mindset, that knowing, that awareness of my true identity in the midst of making a mistake, doing it wrong, messing things up royally. Have I messed things up royally? Yeah, I've messed things up royally. We all have. But that's not saying who I am. And we got to keep those two things separate. The mistakes and all the feedback that we get from making mistakes, where it's a royal mess, it's a pile, that's not who we are. We can't conflate those two things. So we've got to be in that place of eager ears, expectant, joyful, ready for thy right commands. And then it goes on and it says, we would hear no other voices. We would heed no other call. Thou alone art good and gracious. thou art mind, and thou art all. And that mind is capital M, meaning God. Thou art mind, thou art God, and thou art all. I'm not going to bow down to other gods and say, I'm made less than, I'm not made in the image and likeness of God. That's bowing down to other gods. That's saying there's a mind separate from God. It's like, no, God says, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, saith the Lord. Thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. We can rely on that fact and know that God is communicating to us the thoughts of peace. So if we're feeling frustrated and anxious and angry and feeling stupid, those aren't thoughts from God. Those aren't feelings from God. No, we get to denounce that and say, nope, God knows the thoughts that he thinks towards me. And therefore, I know the thoughts that I think toward me because I'm made in God's image and likeness. So I love the way all these things work together. So no fault, no blame, no guilt, no shame, no frustration, no stupidity. Don't identify with any of that. Does that come up? Yes, but we're not identifying with it. Okay. I am committing to going live more regularly. I have not been going live as often as I would like. Oh, and I have to mention this is a quilt. This logo, my logo, this is it's pretty far back there. This is a quilt that one of my Morning Metaphys subscribers made for me just out of the blue and sent me this beautiful, she's an award-winning quilt maker. And I haven't gotten her permission to say her name publicly, but I will find out and let you know. But she made me this beautiful quilt. So I wanted to honor this beautiful piece of art and put it up and say, hey. So Morning Metaphys, if you haven't tried Morning Metaphys, if you haven't just seen if this is an alignment with you, every weekday on Zoom, we all meet. And about a half an hour, God just speaks through me, and I just show up all prepared, all prayed up and all prepared, and I just listen for what the message is from God. And it's really inspiring, and I invite you to check it out. So you can go to my website, thischoicematters.co. Another address that goes to my website, lisataylorcs.com. There are all sorts of places you can go. You can go to getfreesupport.com. I think that also, getfreesupport.com goes to, that might be easier to remember, getfreesupport.com goes to the free trial of Morning Metaphys. So if you haven't tried it, definitely check it out, because it's an amazing group of spiritual warriors, all seeking to put God at the center of our life. And we're all in this together. So we got to support each other and, ask the tough questions and dive deep into things and not feel like it's so fragile. God is very sturdy. God's very strong, the only power. So we get to challenge all these false beliefs that come up and recognize they are not personal. It is not about who we are. It is just coming up so that, because God has given us the ability to have dominion and to have the authority with God to handle it and squash it, because God is the only power. So anyway, thanks for joining. I'll see you next time. And I am committing to doing this more often. So watch for these lives. And I'm getting you